Words, Wounds, and Wonder. Poems and Illustrations by Giosa. Dedication. To my beloved Louise, your persuasion of beauty, innocence, and selflessness in such consummate balance adorned my life. You taught me the true meaning of love, which is the only dimension against which we are defined. Acknowledgements. I would like to express my indebtedness to a few friends and colleagues who were helpful in bringing this volume to fruition. Foremost, to Brendan Galvin, who patiently taught us over a period of years, letting us know what a poem might be, nudging us from a position of desultory versifier to that of a more caring practitioner. Secondly, to Tom Edwards, who helped us navigate through the inky waters of the graphic arts. And lastly, to Beverly Corner, who rescued from bits and scraps of paper these words and lines that longed to assume the posture and don the raiment of real poems, living on a printed page. I cut my father's hair. I prepare to cut my father's hair, now grown sparse as the sunlit hours of a December's frail afternoon, as he quietly sits on a kitchen chair, arched forward by 93 winters. I unfurl and wind a barber's gown around the stem of his wizened neck, pause to set the journey of his inward gaze to where time has passed before, to where time has stayed a bit, to score an image on the retina of his days. Father, do you roam the stony hills of Italy? Take my hand. Help me climb the slopes to where your prayers and olive dreams are cached, that I may share your treasure trove that spills with hopes of stalwart sons, a home in a new land beyond the sea, full of strange syllables, where arms eager as a bride extend wide as a harbor with welcome and expectancy. He breathes with frequent heaves. Sighs of surrender to the course in years, or an insidious dyspnea that failing lungs and heart bequeath. Were there tears enough to wash away the grief in your mother's eyes when you turned to leave forever for the New Jerusalem? Did the impassioned seas that raised and sank repeatedly mirror the pounding voyage of your heart, huddled in dank steerage, a brooding, dungeoned Jeremiah, frightened mid a storm of wondering about urban tomorrows, full of billboard signs, concrete pavements, and buildings higher than your native Apennines? The eyes have sunken home into sockets of insisting bone, his skull grown more evident. Intendulous, the dentist, sure-fisted time in a bit of negligence. I snip with care the wisps of ancient hair that curled about his whorl of ears. Hairs that have left his balding pat now gather as sentinels at the gate of his ear canal to guard against the tinnitus that steals with age, that boon companion that does rage at the silence and the loneliness of our dotage and our senescence. When they barged you to Ellis Island, had you queue under the canopy, as you climbed the stairwell of the great hall, sat in the cattle pen waiting to be called for your medical and legal scrutiny. Father, did you feel like one of the countless cattle minions in an archival daguerreotype, threading the maze of a faceless system, a bit of provender processed through the maws of a censoring colander of rights, rules, and little laws? When you received your landing card, did you believe to enter paradise? Could you foresee the hidden shards in Italian Harlem with its sunless frieze? Conceived of narrow-cobbled streets, a poverty of ambling, rocky hills and locust trees, a filigree of endless zigzagging metal fire escapes that traipsed down the face of red-bricked cliffs, repeatedly, a cluster of cold-water cubicles with its honeycomb of distant dreams and pods of closer fears and daily uncertainties? I cry tears that do not flow as I end the task at hand, sweep the hair dust from the floor, kiss his forehead, lead him once more to his high-back easy-chair, while he weaves a caution call of precepts and wary admonitions to the clock, the air, the walls, the sun-stained room, to all within earshot of the wisdom that he culled and carried on his curved kyphotic spine as he journeyed through his pilgrimage to his candle end of time. He pulls his cloak of prayer around him, shuffles to his corner, the dustbin of half-remembered dreams, of flitting, shadowed childhood scenes. There to sleep and ruminate, there to sleep and wait, and wait. Father, I have brought your grave, and on it laid a polished marble stone, whereon is carved your name, Polviano, and the date when you were born, October 23rd, 1898. Father, I am your continued destiny, the keeper of your dreams, a runner in the relay of ages, your helix trumpeter. I am the tears that will soon stain the grass about your stone, which I will cut, comb, and care, as I once did your whitened hair. To Louise, 1930 to 1992. If thought could persuade to restore and revise the absence of your sure and artless grace, if love could move from memory's store, contrive to return you to this sore and sunless place, with radiance flowing from your lucid eyes, I would reach to touch once more that flawless face, that I might know the light of paradise, as you rekindle scenes that time outpaced. You rushed to die, found with paralysis, could only squeeze my hand in mute farewell, slipped from my imploring hold to nothingness. I lost one so selfless and so beautiful. I weep, and though I weep still more, not all earth's tears return what was before. A Clinician's Review. Death is rarely seen as in the movies. A small trickle of blood that slowly leaves, oozing neatly, the corner of the mouth. Eyes sweetly heavenward in your beloved's arms, then segues a slow fade, followed by the unwinding list of dramatis personae, the director's name, ending with "Sound by Dolby." More often, impending death stares at the raw retreat of flesh from insisting bone, awes at the wasting of arms once graceful and laced with loveliness, once playful, flowing, and filled with longing, now scant and pinched in purpose, a scarecrow, lank and lean, stiff and bare as walking sticks. The end is frequently haunted, pricked by the leaching of complexion's glow, as plethora fades, surrenders, and ghost-white anemia waves its flag to and fro. By lips and tongue which were wet and searching, eager with speech, now caked and cracked, silent and set. In time hope becomes thin, sparse without luster, as hair after radiation to a cluster of matted cervical nodes. Memory's store is robbed by the thieving, piecemeal erasure of the frieze of prior deeds and portraitures. The stride soon slips into a shuffling gait, inching from bed to commode, to bedside wait. In the final scene, the vulture incubus sits patiently at the footboard, witnesses the dialed drip of leaden oblivion doled out in micrograms per kilogram that spares the pain of invaded bone, of invaded dreams. A landscape barren, without direction, without cast, without music. Orphan of the Dance. O homunculus eritus, lost in a cosmos much too large for a lot of us, given to excessive gazing in a mirror, needy as teary-eyed Narcissus, or through a higher looking-glass of elusive sky, in search of stars, signs, or better odds for yet another turn on this whirligig of wounds and alibis, scanning for the too distant gods. O homunculus inquisitus, is it a voice you listen for with hanging hope as you turn and twist your Panasonic dial and slowly grope to far Damascus? Or is it starlit Bethlehem you dream about on a long and lonely neon night? Those that thought they heard the bride of the New Jerusalem caught but echoes of their own haunting needs and the moans of their mortality. But the sky is aloof and dumb and never truly spoke to anyone. O homunculus solus, orphan of the dance of accident and wayward chance, begotten, kissed off and soon forgotten, do not pine for deities. They lust and crave just as we, or for lasting arms which once bore and firmly stayed our infancies. For we are born as a wind-frayed seated sphere of dandelions spinning round a cooling star, floating for a little time. O homunculus intrepidus, within your allotted 10, root the center of reality. Step among the trees of seasons impressed against the sky, strewn with kaleidoscopic repertoire. Trace the contours of the land, soar rocky buttes, scour the scourging ascetic sands, stride over plains and reeded marshes, glide by mudflats and find the waiting sea. O homunculus tranquillus, there mid the endless petitions, the ablutions, lower your gaze to less hazy horizons. Cast your nets among the waves that swell and speak of common possibility. Let Eden be. Seek forgiveness for not remembering your origins, for so repeating your father's sins. Here, let the soul glint the passing pause, the brittle love of human cause. To Emily. The human soul deals with its duality, rapier arrogance, lunging debauchery, spare countenance, repairing humility. When the Word was, Cain was there, with his bludgeon in the air, when rage and murder first were bared. Yet he who fell among the thieves, stripped, beaten to the bone, was found by the Samaritan, who bound his wounds, brought him home. After the beast and creeping thing, in his image were we made. As we pillage, as we rave, pray with ardor to be saved. Ristorante. Dear friends, think on this. That bleating innocent grazing down the slopes of ages, its white face nuzzled to earth, bent to the sweet grasses, is slaughtered, offered as an option as you prepare to dine. As you peruse your menu, ponder the proper wine, and later, genteelly pick your teeth. Not as a thief. Softly, I lift a kiss from the open purse of your parted silken lips. Steal it while your eyes are shut in sleep, as you traipse and turn about as dreams permit. I take it not as a hurried thief of night, weighted with harried heart and illicit gain, afraid to startle you, afraid you might rake me with silence and censorious mien, but as one at ease with the riches of his estate, whose brightest jewel is the glory of your face. I await the dawn to praise and illuminate each turn of cheek, nose, lip that I have traced with prayerful fingertip, to see the crowning sunrise recede before the radiance of your eyes. Genesis Revisited. From the dust of the earth and a rib we came, they say, set in the eastward garden, chaste, unclothed, without guile, lust, or shame, mindless of any metronome, adjuring haste. Manifest as a morning mist, free to while away the passing of each sated day, drift in propped up, poppied reverie, perhaps raise a question, dare to meditate. What cradled that first human notion, made Adam stir and run away from perfect bliss, seek salvation on a whim or need, reach within to search his own direction, leap the common garden wall, dream of imagined wanderings of no recall? How did he juggle to surfeit of it, when there was no variety of want or neglect? For a table's fare, toil wasn't requisite. Where pain was a chimera not yet dreamt, and still unborn that swollen toad, demon guilt. It should come as no surprise that Eden was no paradise, that perfect bliss is perfect hell, that curiosity forbidden is a lethal human burden. When duality was denied in the homogenized domain, was it then temptation's gambit was foreordained, that the serpent, though much maligned, that the woman and the apple, symbols arraigned, were but players, ploys, and pawns, drawn to frame the early moves in the image maker's master game? First spring, alone. The forsythia come again, spring's first doubloons, a season's ransoms paid as winter's wear is done. And as I look around I find myself alone. White and alizarin the weeping cherry blooms, as branches bent and weighed, remind me you are gone. The song of birds begin when apple blossoms loom, to sing a common lay, each season soon dethroned. As I look around and find myself alone, forsythia's gold surrounds the years we spent as one, and I will treasure them till winter's lean is come. Robert Capa, 1936. A Moment of Death. How well your Leica exposed the coming antics of our time in that burst of August in '36, when with a finger's twist you fixed the focus, froze the frame. How he falls, the nameless loyalist, down that Andalusian slope, a violent disruption, a hope dismissed. Now, accusing a sky of stainless steel, brilliant, burning with heat of greater need than love's willfulness or manning of dignity, which looks down with but a casual eye upon stains of new flowers. The dead, red strewn in the field that day, parting the tall wind-swayed grasses. With face turned away, feet off the mound, he passes on his rifle to no one. Only his lengthened shadow comes rushing down the hill to meet him. Then, when you close the shutter, with camera now assuaged, never to utter an epilogue, you denied his repose forever. Requiem for Uncertainties. When they lower us in that hole to a drummer's drawn-out roll, will it allow us to pass into that repose we call the past, where there is no need to bleed or fly from conscience's cutting creed, as we toss from side to side, slip our dreams to avoid awakening in a fall, with a bit of therapy and a little seconal. When they slowly bid farewell, will that mournful bugle tell what muscle pulled a smile, what made us dance a while? Did we wonder if there must have been more than gluttony and lust that filled our canopies, as we traipsed from high teas to soirees, draped in Dior de rigueur, incidental chatterers, impeccably insecure? When they bid a last goodbye with a piper's keening cry, recite our eulogy straight, without pap or apology, will they tell it as it was, that we never knew the cause why some kneeled and some prayed, why some debauched and drank all day, why some sought the tiger's symmetry and couched their thoughts in poetry? Come All Ye Faithful, TV's new season. We await a second coming, a revisit to a season heavy with smog, with songs of prophets athirst ringing us like salivating dogs, promising seraphic flights to Vegas and Gomorrah. With breasts aptly cantilevered, thighs slightly parted, knees suitably in view, nymphets mew, purr, sing the wonders of the new myrrh and frankincense, whose virtues eschew the sweat of axillay, assure instant love, grief's demise, Eden anew. Nor can our innocence hold off the reticula of their exhortations abide as corruption blurs our senses, and we are exiled from the kingdom of ourselves. and all of that. Like some ancient, plodding mollusk with domicile affixed, immersed in its diurnal ebb and flow of dodging natural disasters, oblivion's call, and all of that. We carry our private worlds and ancient wounds from day to day, age to age, habitat to habitat. Unable to step away and gauge what fact or wanton fancy impels our imperturbable odyssey, yet how we burn to glean and see what beginnings led the way, turn in dreams that would dodge our helical destiny. Meditations during recovery. The scar is long and angry, drawn by scalpel. A track of violation from xiphoid to pubis, underscoring life's needs, while often simple, can be agonal. Breathing is now a ratcheted crisis, a continual seesaw of stabbing concomitant, as is attempted turning from side to side. Eating, a gourmet thing at times now deviant, as feeding's a diurnal pricking of skin, a slide of fluids down plastic conduits in allotted doses. Sleep, once dream-filled, now drug-swayed, fitful. Tomorrow is on hold, dangling on prognosis. We are impaled on necessity's rule. We titrate our wounds in the measure of their repair to time's allowance, await the decree, balm or despair, debate the slant of the uncertain balance. We are neither victims nor principals, children of chanced transformations who have evolved in a swirling carnival of circumstance mid a racing migration of galaxies, love child to clamorous chaos and amorous animus. We are here. We hurl our words to the stars, the cosmos. What audience would we commandeer? The armor we wear is meager, fragile, prone to decay. Foremost of our panoply above all is self-scrutiny, the scales of guilt, remembrances, sighs, the melancholy disquietude of disrupted beginnings. We feed at the teat of time whose milk runs quickly dry. About the campfires we lean huddling, sweating the impending onslaught of oblivion. Our citadel, the commonality of anguish. We attend the nature of our wounds, defiantly defend our unknown purpose. Watching for an eastern star, a vision crowned. My father's cane. I've kept my father's cane which kept him company through the creepage of old age and the slackening of his reins. It leans against the wall in a corner of the room as he leaned across the years, like that slant of light which falls as dusk across a closing sky. He held the earth at bay when he pressed down on his cane, smiled for the camera's eye, at ease with what he spawned, a quartet of generations, posing for a moment that soon would be adjourned. For now, nailed frozen to the wall, we look down at that worn-out cane, my tall firstborn son, my grandchild, my father already 3 years gone, and me. Each leaned upon that moment and firmly on each other as we watched the toss of genes tumbling on the velvet spread of chance along the fragile moss of time, wondering when we would need a walking stick to steady our shuffling feet, stay our course, our dignity, and the earth. Tea in the late afternoon. Put a touch of passion in my tea, and stir the sifted dregs of honeyed days, that I might sip and drift to memories which brimmed my cup when bloom held sway. Return the fullness of my breasts to me, when once I strode endowed and bountiful, dallied with my whims and thoughts unbidden, then love was quick and lovers plentiful. Warm my bones in winter's brittle mood in a landscape pale and still and bare of harvest. where cold enchains my lips and silence broods as time rules to rein my steps, dries my breasts. Past and lost the lure that snared and charmed. Now love's a memory that weeps in vacant arms. On Poets and Immortality. Roll up your poems, your raveled imagery, abandon swollen rhymes, lines of metered folly. Grown as larvae from self-devouring scrutiny, begotten in cocoons of woven melancholy. Can subtle similes survive, matter, extend beyond our allotted brevity? Can alliterated iambs in pentameter append one day to a mayfly's longevity? Born of the same necessity as dust is born, as the curled debris of autumn swirls upon the ground in their dervish dithyrambs, we'd have our words escape oblivion's humus mound, the earthworm's voracity, a proper metaphor for immortality. Transition. Under a canopy of cicada song, beneath this tree whose shade we shared some 40 fleeting years, your eyes declared, in music sweeter than canticles among the dappled lilt of sun-pierced leaves, love's lifelong joy that read and answered each least regard, though unsaid, barely thought and hardly bared. Contentment and impatience spread on summer's rung. Then the season turned. I was caught between a calliope of color, sound, imposing light, and a silhouette of boughs bound in a gleam of winter's sky, a silent frost of closing night. I'd still see again those soft, discerning eyes, had death not stolen in, ruled otherwise. I celebrate my father, Joe Nobodi. No, not Joe Hamlet, who spent half a lifetime deciding which of his nostrils to pick at, nor swollen attendant lord full of high sentence, let alone drooling fool's advice. Just Joe Nobody. To look at his daguerreotype, his eyes all but vaulting out of his sockets, with white conjunctivae and siege about dilated pupils, hands bigger than a steam shovel, with a share of Sicily's figs flowering under his fingertips, his credentials seemed suspect. A frightened animal in an urban jungle. He did not easily mingle with those who jeered resentment, who came before. He wore his estrangement like his foreshortened rustic suit. Nor did he set his boot on the chest of this land bellowing conquest, but bided his time in the cold water layers of Harlem's east side, quivering X's on legal documents, drawing rosaries of garlic, dangling cheeses of dried fish after him, like long johns and old-world memories of cradle songs and mother's arms, for minimal comfort. He kept to his labors, in spite of the grape years, to become a great lover of stone and cement, and what swordsman could rival his swift pick and trowel, as the pavement surrendered rows of neat rectangular holes, as the buildings rose like votive novenas offered by bent black-shawled women as he set Manhattan's silhouette against a Jersey winter sky. For applause, he enjoyed his Sunday dinner and his postprandial snoring. In the end, at the generous age of 93, following a fall and hip surgery, he did not rage or parade his pain but quietly took his leave, bade farewell to family, his adopted land, asked to be received, praying in his native tongue. With a bruised, thin right hand, lost among too large a hospital gown and well-tucked-in sheets, sought to complete his last labor, barely crossed himself, and begged God's favor. When they catalogued his obituary, they ended his name, mistakenly, with a Y instead of an I. Cantata No. 8, Bach, J.S. Liebster Gott, wann werd ich sterben? When will these clouds, regal in their slow serenity, drawn by winds of dreams and awe, cease to be, beguile, surprise my splayed and plying eyes? When will my gaze no longer fly up the pale green lichen trail of trunks and laddered limbs, which turn in sundry ways, search for light and space, try to reach and pray beyond their cache of allotted days, beyond their rooted place? When will rush of streams abruptly cease, channeled brooks race dry, sink into a bed of brown and brittle leaves, of caked silt and drawn debris, too drained to soothe and slake the thirst and thrust of spring? When will birds in flight on eager envied wings stall, fall from sight into the cracks and clefts of blackened earth, no longer free from the beat and call of time, of song, of gravity? And this globe of fire that rounds our days, counts memories prized above forgetting, this burning ball that mounts the dawn, bids us rise and race with love and fervor into the rage of begetting, will it burn forever? Dearest God, when shall I die? A Quotidian Passing. The homily begins, culled from crucibles of many millennia, that tells of a casual day, about an encounter in a bramble clearing, of an apt accipiter and a long hind-limbed hare, reeking of intensity with a bill of exact design, bent to tear, eyes wrapped wide, a jeweled hunger hard as enameled fire, circling on short-rounded wings and long-barred tail, scouring the ground or perched on a height when the allotted lepus strayed into the hopper of the goshawk's incessant eye. Then, without flourish or favor, the play unfurled. As hunger more than gravity hurled the unbridled predator screaming down an exclamation, leading with lancet bill and talons bare, shredding the wind in long strips of winding sheets that could not bind the terror in that panicked breast of the dodging, bounding beast. Stunned, felled, ensnared, it sought to tear away, beseeching the yawning sky with legs kicking air. The scene ended with one last shudder as talons closed yet tighter. Only an ooze, tufts of bone and fur marked the spot where a lamentation refused, went unheard, was blotted out. For when the quotidian need to kill and feed, the fiat to endure, has run its course, was done by one to one undone, the discourse is over. Questions at Golgotha. Were you content with the way events played out? Led to the blood from nails shattering bones and hands that would blot out the tears of the misbegotten, touch the innocent, the low, the lame? Stay the stones hurled at harlots at the wall huddled down? Were you alone and uncertain on that naked, sullen height, wrapped in wind and warping pain on that hill of skeletons, with only thieves and despair and fright for accompaniment? In the end, did you groan to the darkened heavens, ask to be received as Romans laughed and gambled on your plain and simple gown? Vermont Colloquy. From this moment's balcony my eyes peer at night's tryst with heaven and earth, pore over the list of stars that slowly veer on their soundless carousel, seemingly secure. Scour the blackened meadows where fireflies neon their need to cling and copulate. Come, hear my song before the fire dies. Let us touch a bit before it is too late. As I turn on evening's balustrade, follow starlight sieved past aeon miles to earthbound eyes, adrift in this galaxy of pulsing meadow. I try to grasp that wisp of string that binds the light to this ageless rounding canopy, to that passing dance of flitting Lampyridae. The Rekindling. How late in years to come again to passion's ties, but when your breasts dangle, ripe pears before my eyes, asking to be caressed, fashioned by a master's hand with such address and care that draw my pupils wide with awe, make me envious of the very light of dusk, which obeys with such devotion each soft curve, sees me wanton with fervor of a former day. It is then I wonder, am I an aging fool to be so preoccupied with love or lust that I neglect, is it my immortal soul, the daily shuffling chores, and at what cost? Yet I did not choose to be so devised that I could refuse the beckoning of my eyes. Epilogue. Once I was vivid as an exclamation, familiar as a quote from Bartlett, stood solid, a gnarled and rooted oak, valid like an ancient proverb, an asterisk not willing to be ignored. I am now but an addendum, a dash, an afterthought in process of transformation, more a question mark or unwritten word. Once I held sway as a duke, a grandee, had true command of myself and reigned a master of my discipline in full season. I soared, a teacher unloading reason, in solemn charge of devotees, royal as Charlemagne, drawn sword astride honor leading my column. But time was relentless, haunted me everywhere through the unraveling years, each day eyeing me as I shaved and combed my hair, a quotidian staring, circling me, assuredly stalking me as some animal at bay, a jackal, its designated prey. In the end, as I taste my ashes, recite it not with accent grave. Might my bones, bracketed with bare dignity, be boxed down without rite or eulogy, without music, apostrophe, or facile praise. Rather, let it be with silence, unsaid, and ellipses. Closing meditations. The leaves are counting down, hours run apace. Gather under hemlocks among ochreous grasses, race along the feet of fences and stone walls, into the far spaces of remembering. Through the splayed reticulum of thinning wooden lace passes autumn's chevroned trumpeting in the rays of an abating sun, pausing on each votive bud and waiting limb. Slowly, the stillness of ecclesiastic dusk steals in, to fill the nave of closing day. It is then I feel the earth revolve as I am turned within, when wonder binds me to the fallen leaves, the passing geese, the flat press of silhouetted trees, suppliant against the dying sky, when I am tied to all and everything. Then comes night and tight oblivion. Now I turn for one last scrutiny, consider antics of the past, muster hints from timeless dreams into a resurrected summary. I must ask this mollusk memory, suspect and spent from a whirl of years and wandering, to reveal what shaped the bias of my eyes, decide which moments were significant. How small and frail the wings of hummingbirds, and smaller still the wisps of human song, frantic with longings and dogging regrets. How vanity bleats, "Remember me," and races from the axeman's anonymity. Were we to get it right, we'd hold our tongue, take our place among the nameless stars, step into the ocean of night, and drown in silence. About the author. Nicholas Giosa was a physician who practiced medicine for over 40 years as a general practitioner and anesthesiologist. He had a lifelong interest in the visual arts and an abiding affinity for poetry for some 50 years before bringing a more discerning focus to bear in the pursuit of the magic and mystery that words might convey. This is his first book.